I gotta admit, at first this romantic relationship seemed pretty random, like it came from left field. While I read through the series, especially earlier on, Cha Hae-In felt like the other girls for the most part, who were all similarly obsessed with our protagonist. For instance, if you told me Sung Jinwoo would have ended up with Lee Jo-hee, you know, the scared B-rank healer instead of Cha, I wouldn't have been surprised, especially since they had some sort of connection from the beginning of the series. But in this video, I'm gonna go back and see if there were in fact clues earlier on and throughout the series that these two would get together, and of course we'll discuss their happily ever after too, including their overpowered son. But first, if you do enjoy seeing solo leveling videos like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming, then channel the national level hunter within and smash that like button. Join the solo leveling fam by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future solo leveling videos and updates. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So if you only read the first few chapters, chances are, as I mentioned, you'd think Jinwoo would end up with Lee Jo-hee, the B-rank healer. Even when our boy Sung was an E-rank and people joked about him being humanity's weakest hunter, Lee still showed an insane amount of interest. Despite her fear, she often accompanied Sung Jinwoo so he didn't get killed and even got mad at him for how often he got hurt. She saw something in Jinwoo before he became an overpowered badass, and for that you gotta give her props, and it makes sense why she'd be shipped by some with Jinwoo. But alas, for Lee, Jinwoo isn't into scared B-rank girls. He's only into badass S-rank girls, as we're about to see. Now credit goes to the anime because they did show Cha being badass and popular in the very first episode. At the very least, you can't say she came completely from nowhere because they hinted at her future importance. In contrast, in the webcomic, we have to wait until chapter 65. That's a lot of chapters. Jinwoo joins the mining team in a dungeon that Cha's guild is handling. She's introduced as the lady with a sensitive nose. She's also introduced as a hype figure. She is the S-rank vice master of the country's strongest attack force. Jinwoo wonders how many women are there in the world with such energy and thinks that she's at least on Choi Jong-in's level, maybe even higher than that, thus implying that she's even stronger than the guildmaster who has been called the ultimate soldier. So immediately, Sung Jinwoo does notice her power and that she's probably the strongest girl in Korea. I don't think he was thinking about how strong that would make their son yet, but it's interesting that he takes note of her before she takes note of him. She, for her part, seems to sense Jinwoo's strong presence, but Jinwoo masks it in time, and then remarks that she's sharper than he thought, meaning his future wife impressed him. When Jinwoo sneaks off to check out the boss of the dungeon, Cha is the one who asks him what he's doing. He says he got lost. At the same time though, he smiles thinking that Cha is not normal since she was able to get on his back. She also gets even more curious about him because she noticed he was holding a weapon, but it suddenly vanished. She asks him to leave and not aggravate the boss. But as he's passing by, she notices something. Jinwoo doesn't smell. She even smells him to make sure, and as she points out, there's no stench, which is saying something after how much manual labor our boy just did. Her cheeks get red and she asks if he's really a hunter. When she sees he is an E-rank, she wonders if he didn't smell just because his rank was too low, but then she says no. Not only did he not smell badly, he smelled nice. So from their first meeting, she sniffed out her future husband. From her perspective, this definitely made him special and one of a kind. Again, most of us probably assumed that like many other girls in the series, it's not weird that this one fell for him. And the smell thing might have been explained away by the fact that Jinwoo is not human in the conventional sense. Perhaps players don't give off smells like ordinary hunters. However, in retrospect, knowing what we know now, it's likely that there is more to it, and it's almost like Cha's nose was telling her who her soulmate was right from the bat. As mentioned, Jinwoo was also impressed multiple times by Cha, but it didn't really get into romantic feelings yet. And it seems that a recurring thing in the series is that Jinwoo is ignorant of all the girls that like him. He's clueless and is not convinced that he's much of a catch, so he doesn't really think of girls he encounters in a romantic way. I guess since we're dealing with an action story rather than a romance, it actually works so that the romance doesn't slow down the story too much until the time is right. But clearly there were clues that from the get-go, each one noticed that the other was special. After this encounter, one of the miners tells Jinwoo that it's rare to even get to talk to Cha once. He calls Jinwoo a lucky guy, so even he was telling us that something special had just happened. The whole smell thing is then explained in further detail. We're told Cha is able to smell a certain scent from hunters, and apparently it's quite foul, and that is why she covers her nose with a handkerchief. Jinwoo wonders if that's why she asked him if he was even a hunter. He recalls the Ice Elf who said Jinwoo wasn't human because the voice in their heads telling them to constantly kill humans was not telling them to kill Jinwoo. However, the fact that Cha didn't say that she could not smell him, but that he actually smelled good, leads me to believe that it wasn't just that. The romantic in me wants to assume that her senses identified her future husband, aka soulmate, even before her mind did. And as we'll see in a bit, this connection does transcend time and even different timelines, so the notion is not quite as far-fetched as it may seem at first glance. That night, Cha can't help but think about Jinwoo again. She tries to find information on him. She's fixated on him, but she doesn't know why, thinking maybe he's a spy from another guild. This is when she finds out that the association has put a block on his data, and that is the first time she's seen that for a non-highly ranked hunter. Jinwoo just keeps getting more and more mysterious in her eyes, which is definitely not hurting his chances. Frustrated, she throws herself into bed, wondering why was he different. Out of all the hunters she's met, he's the first to smell nice. So clearly she was into him from the beginning, but we gotta keep going since, as I mentioned, a lot of girls were, albeit she's the only one who fixated on his nice smell though. Soon enough, Cha comes to meet Jinwoo again at work when he's supposed to be with the mining team again. Then she hears that he's actually filling in for the porter, so he is on the strike squad. She puts this info of him and E-Ranker being unafraid to enter the dangerous gate with what happened yesterday, with seeing him with a weapon in his hand in front of the boss, and decides something fishy is going on. She goes into the gate to investigate. But yeah, let's just take a time out and say she is showing a lot of interest for someone who usually doesn't even talk to people. She also realizes she didn't bring a weapon, so she borrows a pickaxe from the mining team. She's not super happy with it and thinks she'll go without a weapon for a second, but then thinks better of it and grabs one anyways. Meanwhile, as an E-Ranker, Jinwoo is about to take on the High Orcs that were clearly too much for the strike squad. He summons his shadows. Eventually, Cha shows up to see the battle carrying her pickaxe, of course. She's shocked by what she sees and says that mage-type hunters specializing in summoning magic are only capable of handling 1 or 2 beasts at most. In other words, Jinwoo is insanely powerful. He is confident in his victory and effortlessly overpowers the boss, saying a mage without his guards can't block an assassin's surprise attack. When the dagger doesn't seem very effective, he switches to punches, as he usually does. The manager of the surveillance team shows up, and again Cha takes note that not only Mr. Choi, but this guy knows about Jinwoo as well. Manager Woo Jinchul then comments in Cha's presence that Jinwoo is currently clearing an A-rank dungeon all by himself. Pretty impressive for an E-rank, Cha must be thinking. In fact, she's blown away, thinking he's no doubt one of the best fighter-type hunters, but he can also use summoning magic? How many beasts can he control? She wonders. She asks who the hell is that guy? After Jinwoo beats the boss, Cha along with everyone else is shocked to see Jinwoo turn such a powerful boss into one of his shadow underlings. Now Jinwoo gets red-faced and surprised when he sees that Woo Jinchul and Cha witnessed all of that. But to be fair, this could be less because of any feelings for Cha and more because he's been trying to keep his powers a secret for so long, and 2 big names just witnessed it without him realizing. The surveillance team makes it clear that they want to protect Jinwoo's secrecy and tell the others that they can't say anything. He also points out that his strength surpasses that of an S-rank hunter even this early on in the story. As Jinwoo is leaving with surveillance, Cha reaches her hand out in his direction and wants to say something but seems pretty speechless. She's then interrupted when someone asks her why she brought the pickaxe. Cha blushes hard, saying, "What if he thought I was weird?" So clearly by this point, Cha has got it bad. What may have started as curiosity has now turned into a full-blown crush after witnessing Jinwoo's true power in action. And you can't blame Cha, even though she's so strong, for wanting someone who is even stronger than her, like Mitsuri from Demon Slayer, who can protect her. But by the other lady, she's asked who is she talking about, and Cha just looks down embarrassed, saying never mind. This moment is all the cuter because Jinwoo is making a beast in her own right, arguably the 2nd strongest hunter in Korea, or at least 3rd, act like an ordinary girl in love. Later, after some demon tower fighting detours, we see Cha again during chapter 91. At this point, the strongest Japanese hunters and Korean hunters have come together. And Japan's strongest hunter, Goto, can't help but notice that Cha, along with the chairman, Go Gun-hee, would give Japan's best hunters a run for their money. Then, during a sparring match, we see Cha in action against Japanese S-rankers. And as expected, she's impressive. Kanae Tawata comments that she thought Cha was just fast, but she was wrong. She also can't read the pattern of her movements. This is when we're told Cha's nickname is the Dancer, and she was given this name because of the way she'd swiftly kill one beast after the other as if she were dancing. The funny thing though is that she banned the nickname because she found it embarrassing, so not many people call her that. And when you think about it, she definitely gets embarrassed a lot for such a powerful badass. She takes Kanae out of the competition easily enough. When Atsushi Kumamoto sneaks up on her, she instinctively attacks him with so many punches she's compared to a Gatling gun. People can't believe she hit him so many times in the blink of an eye, saying no one could have blocked an attack like that. So she pretty much accidentally embarrassed this S-class. Atsushi gets angry, and in such cases he goes berserk. In berserk mode, he's able to clear a B-rank dungeon by himself, but he may attack friends as well as foes. Cha notices how fast he is in berserk mode, but then Jinwoo decides to intervene, pretty much coming to Cha's rescue. Not saying Cha couldn't handle it, but Jinwoo says, "I think you guys are getting too carried away. This is just a sparring session," end quote. Either way, you can say that Jinwoo was protective of Cha, and you can bet that the fact that he stopped this wild beast for her so easily only ensures Cha will fall for him even harder. Jinwoo and Cha agree to give the victory to the Japanese S-ranks, since it's a friendly sparring match anyways, so who really cares? But then Goto, clearly impressed by Jinwoo, asks for a one-on-one. So now, after the Japanese S-ranks have won a competition, the strongest of all Japanese S-classes asks to fight Jinwoo. Both Cha and Baek are excited to see what Jinwoo is capable of. It's hard to imagine him beating Goto, but at the same time, he's never failed to impress so far. Even Cha doesn't know whether to worry or not. Cha then notices that Jinwoo isn't just hanging in there. He's getting Goto to make attack after attack. Jinwoo then confidently stops Goto's attack by just grabbing his hand and smiling. The flex is all the more impressive because he could have grabbed his wrist and ended the game, but purposely grabbed the hand so that they could keep going. At this point, Goto, who's used to being the strongest in the room, is losing it. Soon enough, things get so heated that the other S ranks jump in to stop them, and Cha and the transformed Baek end up jumping in to stop Jinwoo, saying that that's enough. That man is in charge of leading the Japanese team in a few days for the Jeju Island raid, and nobody will be able to handle the consequences if something were to happen to him. Jinwoo is calm after the fight is broken up, but Goto is clearly shook, shown out of breath, and sweating. It's the face of defeat if I ever saw it. And I say all this because Cha got to witness her future husband being a badass, and not only being protective of her, but going on to pretty much beat a legend and the strongest of Japan's S ranks. Like we've seen, she was already interested, but all of this definitely makes her fall harder for her crush. And at chapter 95, it starts to become clear that yeah, the author is focusing hard on Cha's feelings compared to other girls. By this point, it's been a while since Jo-hee, our B-rank healer, for example, has been relevant to the story, but Cha keeps popping up and there are always clues of her feelings being thrown in. For instance, as they're heading to Jeju Island, she asks Baek about Sung Jinwoo, and if they met before he came, and when Baek says no, why do you ask? She says, no reason, and looks embarrassed with a single sweat pouring down her head. So yes, although it arguably took too long to introduce Cha compared to the other girls, and that made it seem more out of the blue than it could have been otherwise, by this point in the story, the emphasis on her and her romantic feelings is definitely stronger than that of any other romantic interest. And it seems even the anime agrees that she should have been introduced earlier, and that's why they keep giving us scenes with her even before she meets Jinwoo, so we won't be caught off guard later. By showing her so much, they are hinting to us that she will be relevant as early on as the first episode, and I respect that change. During chapter 97, Cha is seen taking down royal ant guards pretty easily, although she does note that their bodies are way tougher than she thought. Baek is especially impressed with her after she gets stat boosts from Byung-gyu, the S-rank healing and buff magic user. Baek says that she probably slaughtered at least twice as many ants as he did, so clearly she's the most impressive S-rank present among them, and yet she continues to impress. Cha is the one to literally sniff out the queen and more guards, and she's the one that ends up cutting the queen's head off too. Then though comes a threat that's too much for even her to handle. The ultimate ant soldier, aka the Ant King, aka the hidden boss of Jeju Island, appears. All the present S ranks are shocked by only the aura and energy of the Ant King. His mere presence sends a chill down their spines. For the first time, Cha is in real danger. The Ant King appears behind her and delivers a blow that sends her body flying. She immediately coughs up blood. The Ant King deals with the others easily and goes off to defeat Goto easily as well. Finally, as Ant soldiers are coming to finish off Cha's wounded group, Jinwoo exchanges with a shadow soldier and appears. He helps the surviving S ranks, but Cha is unconscious, and Jinwoo says that she suffered serious injuries to the point that he can't heal her with just his abilities. Not only that, she's slowly growing weaker. In other words, she's gonna die if they don't do something. The Ant King shows up, and now it's time for his fight with Jinwoo. After some impressive fighting, Jinwoo thinks that the Ant King is getting nervous, but he comments that his team is getting nervous too. We see an image of Cha still unconscious, suggesting that Jinwoo is thinking of her, when he then says, "I have to end this fight as quickly as possible." Again, some more proof that Jinwoo cares for Cha. But we're just getting started. After Jinwoo finishes the Ant King with his newly unlocked skill Mutilate, Baek brings his attention to Cha and her terrible condition. Jinwoo is upset, saying, "Damn, I took too long." He says he needs to find a healer fast. He asks the recorder to turn off the camera, and when he says pardon, he says, "Hurry up. If you don't shut it off, I'm going to smash it to pieces." There's a clue as to how badly Jinwoo is rushing to save Cha. No time for politeness with the camera guy. He decides to try something he's never done, to revive the good guy and healer Byung-gyu as a shadow soldier, since it's the only way to save Cha. Even if it's immoral, he thinks to himself he has to save Cha. Baek is upset too by this, but when it's complete, Byung's shadow immediately starts healing Cha, even without orders. Jinwoo can tell he had a good heart, and he ultimately agrees with the others that as someone who hated violence, Byung shouldn't be kept as a shadow soldier, and Jinwoo releases him, but only after he saves his future wife's life. Think about it. The writer might have had anyone be in this life and death situation, but he made sure that it was Cha, and that Jinwoo was worried over her and ready to break moral rules, albeit only temporarily, for her. At this point, the writer definitely knew they'd end up together, if you ask me. At the funeral for our buff and healer magic user, Cha looks over at Jinwoo, and when he looks back, she turns quickly and blushes. She's definitely got it bad at this point, whereas Jinwoo is clueless, question marks appear above his head and everything. He doesn't know why she's acting this way, and it's the ongoing thing of him being clueless, with girls liking him, whether it's a nurse or the strongest woman in the land. So later, Jinwoo decides to make his own guild, and his bro, Jinho, joins as vice master. Who else shows up? Well, none other than future wife Cha again. You gotta hand it to her, this girl just won't quit. She says she's come to sign up for Jinwoo's guild. Classic Jinwoo is confused though. He's so clueless that he wonders if Mr. Go put her up to it, or if Mr. Choi kicked her out of the Hunter's Guild. When she says no, he asks seriously, then what is it? Why do you want to join the solo player guild? He wonders why her heart is beating so fast. Her breathing is uneven and she's avoiding his gaze. He thinks to himself that she's trying her hardest to keep her cool, but there's no fooling me. So instead of seeing all that as evidence that she likes him, he concludes that he should be on his guard because of her suspicious behavior. He continues his questioning, trying to figure out why she would want to join his guild. Jinwoo says, "I'm pretty sure your contract with the Hunter's Guild hasn't ended yet." And she responds that she has enough money to pay the penalty for breaching that contract. On a side note, I love that she's in love with him so much that money literally doesn't even come into the equation when she's thinking about career moves in her future. Jinwoo makes it clear that their guild can't afford to pay an advance that will be sufficient enough for a hunter of her caliber, and she says it doesn't matter. She doesn't need an advance. He again asks point blank, "Why are you going to such lengths to join? You have nothing to gain." She thinks about telling the truth, but then thinks no. He'll think I'm crazy if I tell him the truth. How it started out as a smell and curiosity, as an attraction to his scent, as she puts it. Then she witnessed his insane strength, how he was one of the best fighter type hunters, but could also use summoning magic. She researched him and saw how he got a bunch of hate online because he ruined Lee Min-sung's press conference. Then when it came out that he's an S rank, she thought that she knew it. She personally didn't get the impression that he was a bad person though, as the online hate would lead one to believe. She told herself to stop worrying about him, and she had no time to waste since Jeju Island was coming up. But when she saw him again at the practice with the Japanese hunters, she couldn't help but think that he stood out like a burst of color in a grayscale world. This reminds me of the first episode of Clannad, where Tomoya meets his love interest Nagisa, and immediately the dark colors are replaced with vibrant, lively colors. I love Clannad and love seeing that idea here too. Keep in mind, she was thinking this and was clearly in love before he saved her at Jeju Island. Against the Ant King, she was scared and afraid. The fear of death took a hold of her. But then she remembers waking up after her injuries were healed. She asks Go if Sung Jinwoo came to help, and he nods. She makes the cutest expression, blushing and thinking she knew it, so it wasn't a dream. She thinks to herself, how could she ever tell him that she wants Jinwoo by her side until she draws her last breath? So sweet and wholesome, heart-melting stuff right there, I love it. But then she thinks, no way, Her face is beet red as we see literal steam coming from her face. Like I've been saying, she's got it bad. Jinwoo wonders what she's up to and if there is something she can't tell him. He thinks to himself that her face is turning red, so she must be hiding something. He pushes once again, saying, "Are you not going to answer my question?" And she says something that doesn't really make sense. She says, "I want to live a comfortable life." However, Jinho takes this to mean that the Hunters Guild must have overworked her since she's only 22 or 23. The burden that comes with being an S-rank hunter must be weighing heavily on her shoulders. That's what Jinwoo thinks. He feels sorry for her, but is not ready to let her join. He says there's actually an entrance test that she must pass in order to join the guild, which is hilarious because every other guild would kill to get Cha. Whatever Jinwoo throws at her though, she agrees and asks what kind of test will it be. Jinwoo still can't believe it, thinking is she being serious or just plain stubborn? He says that she'll have to defeat one of his summons and she feels like he's underestimating her. She asks which one will it be and Jinwoo answers the strongest one just for you. To get to the gymnasium where the test will be, Jinwoo decides to see if he can carry someone with him using his shadow exchange power. For him at this point, it's a simple test. But for her, she's of course flustered when her crush grabs her and tells her she has to stick close. She blushes as they get teleported together successfully. Then we get a hilarious moment. Cha says she just remembered that she didn't bring her weapon. And Jinwoo actually says, and I quote, "Ah, you mean that pickaxe," end quote. That's right, our boy remembers the pickaxe, which bodes well for his interest in Cha. I probably don't have to tell you that Cha blushes again. As you've probably noticed, Jinwoo makes this S-ranker blush a lot. She says that wasn't her weapon, and Jinwoo just smiles saying, he's just kidding, it was a joke. Jinwoo doesn't joke around with everyone, so that also bodes well. Eventually, Jinwoo summons Igris to fight her, saying he's the best of his shadow soldiers. Again though, it's actually the Ant King, Beru, so he's being protective of Cha once again. He feels it would be too traumatic to summon Beru after the Ant King almost killed her. So even if Jinwoo doesn't understand his feelings yet, you can't say he's indifferent to Cha. He remembers little details like the pickaxe, he jokes around with her, he's protective of her, willing to bend rules for her, and even worries about something being too traumatic for her. Now yes, he didn't summon his strongest beast, but Igris is strong and he gives him a level S longsword, so it would still be a challenge for S rankers no doubt. He thinks to himself that she's fast, as expected, when she dodges one of Igris's attacks. When Chairman Go sees from the cameras what's going on, he remembers when Cha recovered and asked if Jinwoo came to help and then blushed. Go finally realizes that she likes Jinwoo and says he's been slow to catch on as he smiles. But I'm just thinking, don't worry Chairman bro, you're nowhere near as slow as Jinwoo to catch on. Wingman Go tells them to turn off the cameras so they can have their privacy, and as the building shakes from the battle he says, "Ah, youth," end quote. Now when he looked at the camera, he only saw them embracing after they came through the portal. So I think you all know what it is that the chairman thinks they're doing right about now. We then jump back to Cha and she overpowered Igris. She knows Jinwoo is going easy on her and asks for the strongest, saying she's been wanting a rematch against the Ant King. He reluctantly lets her fight Beru, but tells Beru that he should defeat her but also make sure that she doesn't get hurt. When Beru takes out his claws, Jinwoo lets him know to put them away and says he won't make life easy for Beru if he hurts her. Even Jinwoo is shocked by how she's not giving up when confronted with the power difference. He says he didn't think she'd be this reckless and thinks perhaps she has her reasons. I just hope she's not making the wrong call, he thinks to himself. So yeah, because Beru is a killing machine that is even now repressing his overwhelming thirst to kill, Cha is pretty much risking her life for a chance to be close to the one she loves. She's fighting a losing battle for love, and that's so romantic, I love it. I love how far she'll go. Eventually she uses her skill, Sword Light, and it's too strong for her own good. It triggers Beru's survival instinct and he remembers his queen's command to annihilate the enemy. Jinwoo picks up on what's going on and loses his composure, screaming stop, and even comes to rescue again, grabbing Beru's hand. Beru clearly isn't used to seeing Jinwoo this mad, and he trembles, saying please have mercy. Jinwoo for his part asks if Cha is okay and gives her a hand up. One definitely can't deny his protectiveness over this S rank. Jinwoo asks again why is she pushing herself so hard for a nameless guild. He says she shouldn't be risking her life over something like this, it's not worth it. When she doesn't say anything, he asks, are you perhaps interested in me? She says, yes, I think so, with even the speech bubble blushing. And now that she's finally revealed her feelings, Jinwoo later wonders about it. He says he's pretty sure he's average in looks. He asks his his sister how she would rate him in terms of attractiveness, and she just says to her he'll always look like a bum. Classic brother-sister dialogue right there. Cha, though, we see in her classic being embarrassed in her bed position with her red face buried in her pillow, thinking of when she said "I think so" over and over again. It's adorable. She thinks to herself that she basically told him she likes him. And we see his reply, which was, and I quote, "Then I don't think joining my guild was the best option." He says, "Isn't there a better way?" End quote. So he didn't reject her, which is notable for our purposes. He just suggested she go about it in a different way. From Cha's perspective though, she just screams out in embarrassment, thinking of the whole thing and thinking that he probably thinks she's crazy. Then she gets all determined, saying, "But he saved my life, so of course I'd be interested in him. Yeah, it's perfectly fine." And then again starts rolling in bed, saying, "Who am I kidding? Everything is totally not okay." Again, seeing such a strong character, acting like a girl crushing for the first time, is wholesome and very cute to see. You know that now, if not before, some part of Jinwoo will start thinking about her in a romantic way, now that he knows she feels that way. And of course, he didn't reject her. In other words, the romantic seed has been planted and we must only wait for it to bloom in between his busy hunter responsibilities and saving the world and stuff. She also recalls that when she was healed, Byung told her to tell Jinwoo to be careful of the powers that lie within him. Later, Jinho brings his A-rank cousin to the guild called Soo-hyun. She's going to be the third founding member. Hilariously enough, when she posts a picture of them three on social media, Cha sees it and trembles. Makes sense that she wouldn't be indifferent since a weaker hunter than her was chosen and it's also a pretty girl. And don't worry, she will bring this up with Jinwoo pretty soon. Cha and Jinwoo run into each other again during chapter 123. At first, she turns away, pulling her baseball hat down. Jinwoo chases her down, saying, "Why are you running from me? And what are you doing near my office?" She's nervous and manages to say that she left her car in his parking lot, and that's when Jinwoo remembers that he forgot that she left her car here when he used Shadow Exchange last time. She asks if he's free right now. Then she asks about the pretty A-rank. She says, "Why did you take a photo with her? Does she really work for you now? If so, why was she hired and not me? Isn't an S rank better than an A rank? Are the two of you dating?" she asks. She finally adds that Byung wanted to relay a message about Jinwoo's powers and he suggests that they talk upstairs. It's just the two of them in the office, which of course Cha is nervous about. Finally, she continues delivering Byung's full message that someone pulled him out of an endless darkness, but he was no longer himself. He was still conscious and his sense of self was still intact, but he felt as if he had become a slave, revived to serve him and only him. But the scarier part was, he felt happy serving him. His powers are incredibly strong and frightening. He must be informed of this. His true army is ... That's all we get for now. Later, when he's checking up on people using his shadows, he sees Cha in the tub, naked, and this time he's the one that gets flustered and loses his cool. He thinks to himself, blushing, that he should apologize for that. Maybe he'll buy her dinner or something. So clear signs of interest and even thinking about dates by chapter 123. Later on, Cha appears with other strong hunters and enters the double gate where Jinwoo is currently experiencing the vision of the past. They quickly realize that they stand no chance against the Architect's powers, so Cha is charged with waking up Jinwoo. The Architect gives some serious looking injuries to Cha after he bests her. He calls the humans disappointing since they don't deviate from the system's expectations. However, Cha does succeed in surprising the Architect by dodging his attack. When he asks what is Jinwoo to them, Cha says we're his friends, who are here to rescue him. This time, she's the one trying to rescue Jinwoo for a change. And don't worry guys, despite what she said, this isn't Jinwoo getting friend-zoned or anything. Ironically, despite coming here to save Jinwoo, this is when Jinwoo awakes and comes to the rescue yet again, smashing the Architect's stone face. Then, with his newly awakened powers, he makes quick work of the Architect who was giving the others so much trouble. Cha asks Jinwoo if he's alright when they leave the portal, and at first he says yeah, of course, but then he says he's a bit tired before he passes out. It's notable that Cha realized something was amiss first, even before Jinwoo did, and it's not the last time she does something like this, as we'll get into. After Jinwoo deals with the giants, when he gets some free time, he thinks to himself that he's not sure what to do with it. He doesn't even have someone to call. And who's the first person to jump into his mind? That's right, Cha. Specifically, he thinks of the time that she revealed that she liked him by saying, "I think so." But then he just says, maybe I should try looking looking for a dungeon that hasn't been claimed yet. Looks like he's not quite ready for that date yet, but still, he's thinking about it. He's now at the point where he thinks of Cha not only before the other potential love interests, but even before Jinwoo and his family. Later, after he defeats strongest ranked hunter in the world, Andre, Jinwoo attends an international hunter meeting. When there's a question of what Jinwoo will do if confronted by his father, who people are saying is a monster, he says that if it is a beast, then he'll take it down. But if he really is his father and not a beast, he's going to protect his family, even if it means turning all the hunters in the world against him. And when he thinks about the people he really cares about when he says this, the people who can awaken this level of protectiveness in him, he first thinks of Cha and then Jinwoo. So again, it's clear he is willing to hunt even hunters or anyone else if he needs to in order to protect his future wife. Before the battle with the monarchs and after a giant gate appears above the city, even Jinwoo, as powerful as he is, starts to consider that his time might be numbered. And if this is the end, he thinks, who should I spend time with? We jump to Cha, and in the middle of sword training, her phone rings. She tells her coach that she has to get going. Something came up. And who made her run from training so quickly? Who did Jinwoo end up calling before the end came? Why, of course, he ended up calling Cha, and Cha ran out to meet Jinwoo. When people see them walking together on their, let's just say, a date, people even wonder who's that next to Jinwoo. Is it his girlfriend, they ask. Cha straight up asks why Jinwoo chose to come here to the amusement park with her, and he says, because you're my only friend. Not quite the because I like you, which he should have said, and hey, what's Jinho then? Maybe a brother at this point, so it doesn't count as a friend for that reason, but still that's kind of unclear. But anyways, he just answers she's his only friend. But hey, at least they're spending some much deserved one-on-one time together. And again, Jinwoo proves how much he pays attention to Cha, like with the pickaxe moment. Here she says what? And he says, remember in front of the weird statue when she said she was a friend here to rescue Jinwoo? She blushes as usual, finally realizing that he heard that as well, and he says, yeah, I have better hearing than most. She asks what was with that strange dungeon, and Jinwoo replies he'll tell her some other time, once he's processed things himself. So if you're reading between the lines, it's clear he plans to have more intimate conversations with her down the line. It's fun seeing how Jinwoo uses his shadows to get some privacy for them, while Cha points out that the shadow bodyguards are actually attracting more attention. But for Jinwoo, it's fine as long as they're blocked from their sight. And by the way, I love him using his world-shaking powers to enhance his date experience. Cha, like Jinwoo, has been focused on hunting and thinks to herself she can't remember the last time she went out just for fun. Her heart is so light right now, she thinks, smiling. She says being with him feels so different, and she brings it full circle by adding he has a special scent. So we are back to a smell after so many chapters. And don't worry, it's not even the last time we're going to hear about how good he smells. He asks her about going on different rides, and she says yes to every single one. He asks, do you like all of them? And she smiles a beautiful smile of pure happiness and says yes, every single one. And Jinwoo thinks to himself, looks like I'm not the only one who's been wanting to come here. And then he says, all right, let's go on every ride. When asked if she's having fun, Cha says she's having loads of fun, but she hasn't screamed at the rides or the haunted house, because the rides feel slow for an S-rank hunter. Not surprising. Jinwoo smiles and asks her to go ride something actually thrilling. And no, he doesn't mean you know what. He means his shadow dragon. And I know that sounds pretty bad as well, but that's literally what happens. When they're up there, he asks what does she think, and finally she's clearly moved by the ride and says we're going very fast and we're high up. She smiles and says it's also beautiful. She asks why he went to the amusement park when he can experience something like this whenever. And then Jinwoo reveals it's because the gate his father went missing in spawned in that very park. So clearly Cha is someone Jinwoo trusts with his most intimate thoughts. She then says thank you. I've been meaning to tell you that because I've received so much help from you. And at this point, romance is in full throttle as she seems to be leaning into Jinwoo. The date finishes off with him showing her a starry sky and even a shooting star. Together on the grass in the night, she looks at him and smiles. She leans on his shoulder, another parallel to Clannad by the way, specifically to the final episode of Clannad After Story. Perfect romantic date in the middle of all the action. And honestly, I didn't think I would, but I gotta give props at this point already because many of the shonen we've covered on this channel have not had as much of a focus on the romance as this series has had before the protagonist finally gets with the girl at the end of the series. It seems the two also spent the night in the forest together. Bonus points for that. We next see Cha drinking some water from a pond and Jinwoo Jinwoo is putting on his jacket. Make what you will with that info. He tells her he knows a nearby hotel that serves an amazing breakfast and asks if she wants to go there to wash up and have a meal. She agrees and they head out on their shadow dragon. At breakfast, Jinwoo gets a call now that his phone has a signal again, and then he hears that there's a monster running wild in the middle of the city. It's a beast that has wiped out an entire guild in the blink of an eye. Understandably, that cuts the breakfast short, and Jinwoo rushes to deal with the beast monarch. Business calls after all. When the ice monarch is ending Jinwoo, before Jinwoo's great rebirth as the Shadow Monarch, he says that he has a different plan for Jinwoo's country than for the others. He will freeze every single human in this country and make them suffer for all of eternity. They will live forever as beings that are neither dead or alive. And who does Jinwoo worry about when he hears this? His mom, sister, and Cha. And of course, when the Shadow Monarch shows Jinwoo the dream world where he could pretty much live out any ideal life he wishes, Cha makes an appearance because she obviously would be an important part of his perfect world. Although Jinwoo does decide to go back and deal with the monarchs anyways. After all, he has to protect the real Cha. After he defeats the monarchs, Cha is by Jinwoo's side as they wait for the giant gate overhead to open. And she says she's never seen Jinwoo so nervous. Again, goes to show how well she knows him by now, that she can spot if something is bothering him even while he may look the same to everyone else. Then right before his toughest battle against the dragon monarch, Jinwoo decides to call future wife Cha again. He smiles saying it's me. He apologizes that he couldn't call since he's been busy recently. She says no worries, she's been busy too since the hunters obviously have their hands full trying to save the world right now. She continues saying, right, we haven't seen each other in a while. Jinwoo says let's meet up again soon, and Cha agrees, saying sure, let's do that. She then says, Jinwoo, promise me you'll come to see me. And he says, I promise. I'll come to see you no matter what. She smiles and then gets flustered when her guild master interrupts her sweet moment with Jinwoo. He's like, we should be getting back to world-saving business, and she's like, oh yeah, right. So last time he felt like the end was near, he went on a date with Cha, and this time when he's about to face an even greater opponent, he wants to call Cha again. At this point, he's got it bad. Then after Jinwoo beats the Dragon Monarch with the help of the rulers, he decides to use the Cup of Reincarnation to go back one more time, aka to turn back time, so he could beat the monarchs in the dimensional crack before they ever come to Earth. As a result, a lot of lives will be saved. Yes, he won't have the credit of saving the world because no one will remember or witness him doing it, but credit has never been what Jinwoo was about anyways. After he succeeds in single-handedly saving the world and not taking credit, he's back on Earth, and who should pass by but Cha. Now, one of the problems, of course, is that what happened before with them all happened in another timeline, and this Cha doesn't share all those memories and experiences with our current Jinwoo. She passes by just when Jinwoo is experiencing a very empty feeling. He's told by the rulers that he's too strong now and that he will attract unwanted monsters and dangers to the Earth, so it might be better for him to leave this dimension. He feels like nuclear fuel that has become dangerous toxic waste at the end of its life cycle. He was needed to save the world, and now that he's done it, he's just in the way and doesn't know what to do. But Cha is like an answer to this empty feeling. He starts chasing after her. Cha, for her part, wonders if ice cream always smelled this good. For full context, Jinwoo was just eating ice cream at an ice cream place, and this is just another reference to her being drawn to Jinwoo's smell. This attraction to his smell clearly transcends time and timelines. And keep in mind, it's a good smell, not a lack of a smell, which is why by now we know that Jinwoo's first theory, that she felt this way because he was a player rather than a normal hunter, is just not true. She's just sniffing out her soulmate. Jinwoo, despite the risks, ends up deciding to stay because the people he loves are here, as well as the people who love him now and loved him before. And I might add, will love him again in the future. Obviously, future wife Cha is a big one, but he thinks of Jinho and his family too, including his dad, who is now alive in this timeline. For him, that's more than enough reason for him to remain here. So he decides to stay and search for other reasons to stay too. And the chapter and main story ends with Cha turning around and them staring at each other. That's how important this romance is to the story. It's what the author chose to end it with. Like I said, most action series do not give the romantic relationship this much emphasis and focus, but I love that Solo Leveling does. And then just when you think it's over, no, we get even more juicy details in the epilogue chapters. In this new timeline, Jinwoo joins his school's track and field team because there's someone that he wants to meet at the track and field competition. Spoiler alert, this is Cha, and it makes sense that she likes track and field because even in the anime, she was seen running around the track during this first season. Jinwoo even points out that in the old timeline, she was a talented track and field star before she gave up her dream and became a high-ranking hunter. He decides if he enters the track and field competition for middle and high school students, then maybe he'll bump into her naturally. And he is older than her, so he's in high school while she's in middle school. As expected, Jinwoo does eventually cross paths with Cha again. It's on the street. Her foot is injured from running, and she's nursing it on the bench. What happened is she made it past the first round, but worries about the rest of the rounds because of her injured ankle. She's frustrated. Jinwoo starts explaining why she shouldn't run on a damaged ankle, while all she can think about is, you guessed it, he smells nice. Man, I love this show. Jinwoo decides to heal her ankle. He says, you only get one chance. You should do your best and run as fast as you can. She says, wait, haven't we met somewhere before? Like I said, a love that transcends time and timelines. And some beings, like the monarchs, do retain memories after the redos, so it's not crazy that humans may retain something as well from the past timelines. Jinwoo smiles and says, let's run. If you can run faster than me, he says, he'll answer that question. She saw him taking first place in all the events though. He asks, so are you throwing in the towel? She says, could you answer my question once I beat your record, even if it takes some time? Jinwoo thinks to himself, she's younger now, but she's still as innocent as ever. He says it's a deal. Time passes and we see that they see each other over the time skip. Jinwoo studies for college entrance exams. At Christmas Eve, a date for romantic dates in Japan and I guess for Korea too, Jinwoo and Cha meet up. Jinwoo says he wants to go to a specific university because there's someone he wants to meet there. She gets upset saying, is it a woman? Clearly she has it bad in this timeline too. He says that's a secret which doesn't satisfy her. She asks if he remembers his promise that he would answer any question if she managed to run faster than him. He says yeah, and she challenges him to run to a nearby Christmas tree to see who can get there first. He wonders what she wants to ask and she says everything. She wants to know what he's thinking about, if the person he wants to meet at the university is a woman or a man, and if they ever met before the track and field competition. He smiles and says alright. She puts her scarf around him and then cheats. She says, Jinwoo, if you like me, stay right here and don't move. Of course, by this point we should know that he does like her and he stays in place while thinking about how far they've come since their first meeting when he was on the mining team. She gets to the tree and excitedly asks, this means I won, right? He then tells the shadow soldiers to close their eyes as they embrace each other under the Christmas tree, feeling pure bliss. We also get a fun chapter where we see the shadow soldiers cheering Jinwoo on in their dimension while he got closer to Cha. There's also a funny moment where Jinwoo straight up shuts down our B rank healer, Lee Jo-hee, in this timeline as if to definitely tell us that he's chosen Cha above everyone else. As I mentioned in the beginning of the series, arguably Jo-hee was potential love interest number 1. But here she stops him on the street and asks, haven't we met somewhere before? And he just says no and keeps walking. Cha would probably be so happy to see this utter rejection of an old potential love rival. In later epilogue chapters, we see that Cha and Jinwoo are married now and have a son. We know that Jinwoo can share memories with people and make them remember the old timeline. So it seems like he did that with Cha at some point, since she asks him, why did he go out for drinks when he can't even get drunk? Meaning clearly she knows now about his ability that lets him neutralize all kinds of toxins in his body. Jinwoo's son is called Suho, and he's excited to see his dad. It's funny, we see the shadow soldiers arguing if teaching the little boy academics or swordsmanship is more important, but Jinwoo is like, guys, at least wait until he learns to walk before you worry about that. Cha then asks Jinwoo for him to come home earlier until his son learns to walk, and he answers, yes ma'am. So I guess he can't go out drinking with Jinho every night. Later, Cha freaks out and phones Jinwoo, telling him that their son is already flying before he can even walk all over the house. And considering how overpowered Suho's parents are, it's not surprising. The power couple was always destined to produce hella talented children, and thus there's every possibility that Suho's power can even surpass Jinwoo's own eventually, as we're going to see. He lets Cha know that he'll be home early today as she's trying to deal with Suho. We find out that Suho inherited the power of the monarch and that that's why the other children fear him, despite him being a very happy kid. Because of this, Jinwoo decides to seal these powers away and erase his son's memories of the shadow soldiers until he learns to get along with other people in the regular world. Eventually, when he's older, Jinwoo creates portals for his son so he can level up like he used to do until he's ready to inherit the full power of the Shadow Monarch. Even Igris must admit when fighting him that the little monarch has an incredible amount of potential. As he says, as the son of our king, who has become one with the previous godlike monarch and an S-rank hunter who was forgotten when history was rewritten, he holds an enormous amount of mana and potential. Compared to Jinwoo, whose mother was arguably a fragile lady and definitely not an S-rank, I think Igris is definitely implying that Jinwoo's son will surpass him eventually. It's only a matter of time. The little monarch gets so strong that he stops leveling up as well, but he still improves by getting better at how he uses his power. Jinwoo tests his son over and over again, but doesn't give him his powers back, even when he makes it to the final boss, who is Jinwoo himself, because boss Jinwoo is still too much for him. As Jinwoo says, if he comes across an opponent like the Dragon Monarch, he has to get better. So he is overprotective but hopeful since his son does seem to do better each time he enters one of Jinwoo's game portals. And I spoke in detail of their son because I think he is an important aspect of Jinwoo and Cha's relationship. The epilogue ends with Jinwoo again taking Cha out on his shadow dragon and giving her a necklace for their 16th wedding anniversary. He tells her to go home soon and says he'll be right behind her. Even though she's older now, she still has that same blush and smile to this day as she says she'll be waiting for him. The final image we get is also Jinwoo and Cha embracing after the notes to the reader section. So in retrospect, after Cha was introduced, this relationship definitely got a lot of focus, as illustrated by how long this video is probably going to end up being, way longer than I thought. Sure, she wasn't introduced immediately, something the anime remedied, but like with life, you can meet your love interest along the way, so we can't really hold that against the story. Once she was introduced and realized how good Jinwoo smelled, she easily got the most emphasis of any romantic love interest, and Jinwoo, although pretty oblivious at first, would go on to think more and more about her. And by the end, she's the one who gave his life purpose again when he found himself feeling empty after saving the world. So let me know if you like this relationship as much as I did in the comments. If you like this video, check out my all national level hunters video, link on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more solo leveling videos, and I'll see you in the next one.